Hello, Math 005. What we are talking about in this lesson is 5.5, which is multiplication of polynomials. In the last section, we added and subtracted them. Now we're going to be multiplying them. So then we're going to start with multiplying monomials. Remember, monomials are one single term. And you may look at these and remember how to do these from before. So the first one we have here, 3a times the monomial negative a. You always want to start by multiplying the coefficient parts first. The coefficient of the first monomial is 3. The coefficient of the second monomial is going to be a negative 1. Then we have a times a. 3 times a negative 1 is negative 3. A times a is going to be a squared. So go ahead, look at b, and try that one out. We get negative 28x to the 8th. Now what we're going to be looking at is a monomial and a polynomial. So one term by something that has more than one term. It says, let's review how to multiply using the distributive property. So whenever we are faced with a monomial, like you see right here, and a polynomial, this is when we take the 3 and multiply it by both of the terms inside the parentheses. So for here, 3 times 2x, and then we have to add that to 3 times 5y. With that, we're left with 6x plus 15y. Now we are going to be doing the same thing, but now on the outside as our monomial, we're going to have variables out there, but that's going to be the only difference. So go ahead and I want you to actually try A and B and then unpause the video and see how you've done. Since we've done distributive before, it's not necessarily anything new, you just have to be careful with your variables. Okay, you can see in example 2a, we get x squared plus 3x. In example 2b, we get 10x cubed minus 15x squared plus 20x. And you can see that I just distributed just like we did in the previous one. A lot of times once we get familiar, we'll start skipping this step here. I like to write it out just because it helps me not forget anything. Now, multiplying any two polynomials. So now what we're doing is multiplying, in this case, a binomial by a binomial. This is what you may have also heard as foiling. So in this case, you could use the foiling approach. If you're familiar with that, it's the first, the outer, the inner, the last. But also a way we can think of it as distributing. That's all it is. We're going to take this first term here. So we're going to write 4x, and we're going to distribute it to the second polynomial, this x minus 2. And then we're going to take this negative 3 and again distribute it to the second polynomial. 4x times x gives us the 4x squared. This would be minus 8x minus 3x plus 6. And then you combine your like terms, which are in the middle, which would be negative 11x plus 6. So we get 4x squared minus 11x plus 6. Now when I said FOIL, this works whenever you have two binomials. And what it is, FOIL means the first two terms. So you multiply 4x by the x, which is where we get the 4x squared. The outside two terms, so I'm going to erase this so you can see. So the outside two terms would be the 4x and then negative 2, which gives me a negative 8x. The I stands for the inside 2, which is the negative 3x. The last represents the last two, negative 3, negative 2, which is that positive 6. Now looking at example B, the most common mistake is we try to distribute a 2 to both of those. That is not correct. You cannot do that. Be very, very careful. We want to think about what exponent means. If you have an exponent of 2, that means you have 2 of those. So this is the same as 3 minus x times 3 minus x. And then this is where we can use that foiling again. You take the first two terms, 3 times 3 is 9. The outside two, 3 times negative x is negative 3x. The inside, negative x times 3 is still negative 3x. And the last, negative x times negative x is a positive x squared. I'm going to do two things in one. I'm going to, one, combine these two. I'm also going to reorder. So x squared minus 6x plus 9. And that would be our answer there. Again, be very, very careful not to distribute that exponent. That I showed kind of in this one in 3a right here, where we take this first term and distribute it to the second. we're going to be similar to what we looked at in this example right here. Okay, and the last thing we have now is we're still multiplying two polynomials, but this time we have a trinomial and a binomial. So the foiling technique really doesn't work here because we have three terms going here. But it's still going to be the same process as that process. So we're going to start with this first term here, which is going to be this x squared. So I'm going to take x squared and I need to distribute it to this. So x plus 4. Now my next term here is plus 2x, and again I have to distribute that to the x plus 4. And my last term here is going to be this negative 3, and we're going to multiply that by x plus 4. Now we can do all these distributions. So we have x to the third power plus 4x squared plus 2x squared plus 8x minus 3x minus 12. And then combine like terms to give us x cubed plus 6x squared plus 5x minus 12. And that would be our answer for this one. And just like we looked at in the last section too, you can type this into y1 on your calculator and this into y2, and they should produce the same graph as long as you didn't make any mistakes. So that's how we can work through it if we have a trinomial with a binomial. Now what I'd like you to do is I want you to work through the next 7 problems. Pause the video, work through them. It's all the same kinds of things that we've done in the previous couple examples. Be very careful with ones like E and F. They're going to be very... So go ahead and give these a shot, then unpause it and check your answers. Okay, you can check all your answers with mine. You'll see that I took all the same approach to every single one of these problems. I started with taking the first term of the first polynomial and distributing it to the second polynomial. And you'll see that everything I wrote in red with each problem, you see the same exact thing in parentheses. If you ever have different things in the parentheses, then you made a mistake someplace. Also, with E and F, like I said, you have to be careful because we're squaring it, meaning there's 2 of that binomial. So yeah, go ahead, pause the video. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, if you notice on C and D, you had the middle 2 terms cancel out. And that's because what we have here are what we call conjugates. It's where it's the same exact thing, but the opposite signs in the middle. So here we have an x and an 8, 1's plus, 1's minus. 6 plus 5w, 1 plus, 1 minus. So that's all we have for 5.5, a little bit shorter of a section. 5.7 is also on the shorter side. There is no 5.6. If you have any questions, please reach out and have a great day and good luck with the homework. Bye.